Hello everyone. Welcome to today's story. A love that seemed unbreakable until dark secrets and betrayal threatened to tear it apart. Will James stay true to Diep, or will a woman's manipulation succeed in shattering their happiness? Can Diep trust him again after everything she's heard? Stay with us to the end and discover the shocking truth. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to help us reach 1,000 followers. You won't want to miss what's coming next. James returned home after a long, exhausting day. The warm glow of the setting sun poured through the living room window, casting soft, golden light across the room. He paused for a moment, taking in the scene before him. Diep, sitting by the window with their baby boy in her arms. The sight of them together filled his heart with an indescribable tenderness. It was a feeling he had never truly known before, a quiet joy that settled deep within him. Diep looked up as she heard his footsteps, her tired eyes lighting up at the sight of him. Gently, she placed their son into the crib beside her and stood up. James approached slowly, his heart beating in time with the calm rhythm of the home. He placed his hands on her shoulders, pulling her close in an embrace that spoke volumes. In this moment, everything they had gone through, the challenges, the uncertainties, seemed to melt away. It was just the three of them now, a little family wrapped in love and peace. "I'm home," James whispered softly, his voice thick with emotion. "I know," Diep replied, her voice barely audible. "I've been waiting for you." James's eyes moved to their baby, peacefully asleep in the crib. His chest tightened, not from the stress of work, but from the overwhelming love for his family. "I can't imagine my life without you both," he said, his words heavy with sincerity. Diep smiled, her hand gently touching his. "We're here, always." The room fell into a gentle silence, a silence filled with love, where words weren't necessary. A few days passed and the peaceful rhythm of life seemed unshakable. James had returned home early again, as he always did, eager to spend time with Diep and their son. The evening was quiet, the soft hum of the world outside filtering in through the window when James received a call. It was a business matter, something he had been expecting for a while. He excused himself, stepping out into the garden for some privacy. But even as he spoke on the phone, his thoughts kept drifting back to Diep. Diep was in the living room, humming softly as she tidied up. The baby had just fallen asleep, and she was relishing the stillness. But then, as the doorbell rang, she looked up, startled. When she opened the door, standing before her was Trang. Her polished appearance, flawless makeup, and sharp eyes were the first things Diep noticed. She hadn't seen Trang in months, and the sight of her now stirred an uneasy feeling inside. "Oh, I didn't expect to see you," Diep said cautiously, trying to mask her discomfort. Trang smiled, but it wasn't the kind of smile that reached her eyes. "I'm just passing by," she said, her voice sweet and polite, though there was an edge to it. "I thought I'd drop in for a quick chat." Diep stepped aside to let her in, though every part of her was wary. Trang had always carried an air of confidence that seemed to make her impervious to any kind of vulnerability, and that, Diep realized, was exactly what made her dangerous. Trang walked into the living room, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Diep couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She offered a hesitant smile, trying to make the best of the situation, but Trang's presence filled the space in a way that felt imposing rather than comforting. "Your home is lovely," Trang said, taking a seat without waiting for an invitation. She glanced around, her gaze lingering a little too long on the baby's crib. "It must be so peaceful here now that you're a mother." Diep nodded, though a slight knot formed in her stomach. "It is. James and I have a good routine now." Trang leaned forward slightly, her voice soft but laced with a subtle tension. "I can imagine," she said, her eyes narrowing slightly. "But I know how difficult it can be. The baby, the house. It's a lot to handle. And James, well, he's so busy with his work." Diep shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "James is doing fine. We manage." "I'm sure you do," Trang said with a smile, but the tone of her words was loaded. "But, men are men. They need more than just a warm home. They need someone who can keep up with them, someone who can support them in all aspects of life, not just at home." Diep's eyes narrowed slightly, her heart racing. She could hear the underlying message in Trang's words, the subtle suggestion that perhaps she wasn't enough. But she chose not to respond directly, instead focusing on her baby, trying to calm the growing unease within her. Trang's smile remained, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. She wasn't here for a friendly visit. She was here to plant a seed of doubt. Days passed, and Diep could feel the tension lingering in the air, like a storm just waiting to break. James had been more distant than usual, consumed by work and responsibilities, and though he still made an effort to come home early every evening, something felt different. Diep couldn't shake the feeling that she was losing him, that the simple joy they had shared in the past seemed to be slipping away, slowly but steadily. Then, one afternoon, after an exhausting day at home with the baby, Diep received an unexpected phone call. It was from James, asking her to meet him at the office. She had hoped to spend more time with him, but she didn't question it. She took a deep breath, gathered herself, and left for the office. When she arrived, she found James standing near his office door, his face grim. "Diep, we need to talk," he said, his voice calm but firm. Diep's heart skipped a beat. She nodded, stepping into his office, her mind racing with all the possible reasons for this sudden conversation. "James, is everything okay?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. He met her gaze, his eyes filled with a mix of frustration and determination. "I know what's been going on, Diep. I know what Trang has been doing. And I want you to hear this from me. I've made it clear to her that I love you. Not her. You. You are the only one for me." Diep froze, her breath catching in her throat. She had known something was wrong, but hearing James's words, so clear, so resolute, washed over her like a wave of relief. But at the same time, something in her shifted. The pain she had been carrying, the nagging doubts, slowly started to dissipate. James stepped closer, his voice softer. "I'm sorry for making you feel like you had to doubt me, but I'm done with her. It's always been you." The weight of his rejection toward Trang and his loyalty to her made Diep's chest tighten. For the first time in weeks, she felt the warmth of his love wrap around her once again. Despite James's reassurances, the tension didn't immediately disappear. While Diep tried to move past her fears, there was still a lingering unease in the air, a quiet discomfort that seemed to follow her everywhere. Her thoughts were constantly pulled back to Trang and her manipulative behavior. It was clear that the woman wasn't finished yet. One afternoon, James's mother invited Diep over for tea. It was an unexpected gesture, one that caught Diep off guard. The two women sat together in the grand living room of the family estate, surrounded by the elegant decor that Diep still hadn't quite grown accustomed to. There was a weight to the silence between them, as though the air itself held some unspoken tension. James's mother, always the picture of poise, finally broke the silence. "Diep, dear, I've been thinking about some things." Her voice was soft but firm, her eyes searching Diep's face for a sign of understanding. Diep looked up, a slight unease rising in her chest. "What do you mean, Mother?" "Well," James's mother continued, her tone now a little more pointed, "I've had some concerns, especially after our conversation with Trang's mother. She's been telling me things about you and your background." Diep's heart skipped a beat. She knew where this was going. "What kind of things?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Her mother-in-law hesitated, then spoke in a calm, almost detached way. "She believes you don't come from the right family, that you may not be capable of supporting James in the way he needs. It's something I've heard more than once." Diep's face paled as the words sank in. She felt the weight of them press down on her, the growing doubt that had once seemed like a passing cloud now threatening to rain down on everything she had built with James. But before she could say anything, James's mother continued, her gaze steady and unflinching. "I know you don't come from wealth, but that's not what matters to me. What matters is your heart. And I know you love James. I have no doubt about that. But I can't ignore what's been said. I just want to make sure you understand how much pressure is on James, from all sides." Diep looked at her mother-in-law, her chest heavy with emotion. She had always felt like an outsider in this world of wealth and power, but her heart, her love for James, had always been genuine. She couldn't let that go. "I understand," Diep said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I will never stop loving him, no matter what anyone says." James's mother looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "I just want you to know, I'm here for you, no matter what." The words were comforting, but the shadows of doubt still loomed over Diep's heart. She wasn't sure if she could ever truly belong in this world, but she was determined to fight for her family. Trang's manipulations grew bolder with each passing day. Diep couldn't ignore the growing unease in her heart, fed by the seeds of doubt Trang had planted. The quiet discomfort was becoming too much to bear. One afternoon, while tending to the garden, Diep heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see Trang standing there, her smile cold and calculating. "I didn't mean to disturb you," Trang said sweetly, though the edge in her voice was unmistakable. "I just wanted to check on you. How are you doing?" Diep forced a smile, though her heart raced. "I'm fine, thank you." But Trang stepped closer, her gaze sharp. "It must be hard taking care of the baby, the house, and James, with all the pressure he's under. He's been so distant lately, hasn't he? I'm sure he's not the same." Diep's chest tightened, unease settling deep in her bones. "What do you mean?" Trang's smile deepened, though it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm just saying, sometimes men need more. When things get routine, they look elsewhere. James has been distant, and you've been so busy with the baby." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "On our recent business trip, James and I had personal time together. It wasn't just work." Diep's heart stopped. The ground beneath her feet seemed to disappear. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Trang's words were a poison, making her world feel smaller and colder. "You should let him go," Trang whispered. "If you truly love him, You'd let him be with someone who can give him everything he needs. Someone like me. Diep turned away, her vision blurry with unshed tears. She had to leave. She couldn't stay in this suffocating place any longer. Her heart was breaking, and the trust she had placed in James was now fractured, as fragile as glass. James returned home to find the house quieter than usual. His eyes scanned the room, and his heart dropped when he didn't see Diep or their son. His footsteps quickened, his chest tightening with worry. He called out her name, but the only response was the soft echo of his voice. Panic set in as he searched every room. When he reached the baby's crib and found it empty, his fear turned to dread. He rushed to his mother, who was holding their son, and asked, "Where is she?" "She left," James's mother said softly, her eyes filled with concern. "She said she needed to rest." Without another word, James turned and bolted out of the door, his mind racing. He drove through the familiar streets, retracing their shared memories, until finally, something in him urged him toward Diep's old house, the small, humble place she once called home before they built their life together. There she was, sitting on the doorstep, her head buried in her hands. Her hair was a mess, her face streaked with tears. His heart shattered seeing her like this. He rushed over to her, pulling her into his arms. "Diep, I'm so sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Did I really hurt you this much? I've been searching everywhere for you." Diep trembled in his arms, her sobs muffled against his chest. "Why did you betray me, James? I trusted you." Her voice cracked with pain, the rawness of her emotions cutting through him. James lifted her chin gently, looking into her eyes with a sincerity that made her breath catch. "I never betrayed you," he said firmly. "Everything you heard was a lie. Trang made it all up. I love you. Only you." Diep looked at him, her heart slowly beginning to heal as the weight of the lies melted away. They sat together in silence for a long while, their hearts reconnecting, their bond growing stronger with each word shared. When they returned home, James's mother greeted them with tears in her eyes. She hugged Diep tightly, whispering, "I'm sorry I didn't realize how much you were hurting. From now on, I'll always be here for you." Diep smiled, her heart finally at peace. James was by her side, their family whole once more. The storm had passed, and love had once again proven to be their greatest strength.
Tình yêu của James và Diệp bắt đầu từ những khó khăn và thử thách, nhưng họ cuối cùng cũng đã kết hôn và có một đứa con trai kháu khỉnh, tạo nên gia đình hạnh phúc. Tuy nhiên, sự xuất hiện của Trang, một người phụ nữ đầy tham vọng và thù hận, bắt đầu gieo rắc sự nghi ngờ, chia rẽ trong mối quan hệ của họ. Trang lợi dụng yếu tố yếu đuối trong cuộc sống của Diệp, đặc biệt là khi cô mới sinh con, để gây ra những nghi ngờ về sự trung thành của James. Dù Trang cố gắng tấn công gia đình họ bằng mọi lời nói dối và âm mưu tán tỉnh James, nhưng tình yêu của James dành cho Diệp không bị dao động, và cuối cùng khi sự thật được phơi bày, gia đình của James và Diệp tìm được nơi sự bình yên và hạnh phúc.